So, the sky itself isn't really orange or red or gray. That change in scheme that we perceive, those waves of light beams interacting with objects, interacting with our eyes, it is the groaning. That concentration of particulate matter in the atmosphere does something to the skyline before the eye line. Yes, it is like a sight, but it is also a sound. The drawing closer and nearer smell of smoke, the deteriorating quality of air is also a sound. It is part of the groaning. Fires, combustion, consumption, they are specific notes of the groans. And to describe the scene as hellish is perhaps appropriate, because there's a certain hopelessness that the groaning garners as it draws closer because of the certain powerlessness before the doom incarnate, now zombie shambling and now tornado sprinting to your door, implacable, relentless, and unavoidable at this point as it looms and consumes and occludes what is perceived of the light. It is groaning. It is the same groaning of fluid flooding lungs, or lead poisoning a body suddenly with a bang, or slowly from the walls, or the water. And as we human beings lament the destruction and the death and groan in our suffering, it is the creation that groans as well, before perhaps tacitly and now loudly with violence and sorrow and frustration here. And to call it apocalyptic might truly be appropriate, as the apocalypse is a revealing, and certain human beings in the present are just catching up, just now hearing the low in the groan in this specific tone, the fever in the patient unveiled to new eyes. It is longing, longing, longing for the sons and daughters of God to be revealed in fullness, in that one day but not yetness, longing for a time where it, the creation, now subjected to frustration, will no longer weep over the mismanagement by and actions and inactions of persons and the repeated and cascading effects of decisions made in the garden when God said to man, of the created world, there is one step too far, and yes, you can take anything of this place, but should you cross a certain line, you and yours will know death. So proper subduing and stewardship of the world means tending to certain parts and leaving some of it alone. The earth is the Lord's, it is to you but on loan. Until fully refined, the king makes her his throne, and there is potential in her you think you can own, but indulging that temptation may bring expulsion from home. Warning given. But lies and pride and an enemy urged humanity to temptation. From that tree take and gain exploitation, and they did take and eat. Humanity and idolatry committing this violation set a precedent that repeats generation to generation. The climate in the garden changed. Crisis introduced between God and man and woman, humanity and the created realms, seen and unseen through the ages, and fast forward some, and God's heart is deeply troubled. And the breaking of the firmament and waters from the deep could be some fragment of sorrow flooding God's heart from within. But in man's free will, broken fallout repeats again and again and again. Skewed priority and attention, looping fallout, but acceleration, the gyre growing tighter again, until second coming, flood ash since Eden, the toll of human sin, reigning ever over nature, the groans louder, again. What is man? That nature is mindful of us, we grasping perhaps for solutions or profits or process too far, too fast, too costly, perishing without knowledge, or maybe it's wisdom or some selflessness or kindness. Are there plans for those in the sacrifice zones? Because the pattern, natural and fallen, perpetuates but accelerates, falls further faster and faster further falling. Is that the plan for those in the sacrifice zones? Resignation to devastation. Natives knew some tones of the groans, controlled burns in ages past. Foreign invaders shut that down, reconsidering management now. Hellish, apocalyptic, are perhaps appropriate. Selah. Weep for those who weep. Adorn your spirit in sackcloth and flood ash, for lives lost, verified and yet to be confirmed, and for homes burned. While survivors keep household memories, it is a loss of artifact, history, sanctity, security, to the groaning. Pray God's peace. For this season of fire could rage longer. Santa Ana may bring louder the sound still. This, possibly a crackle before greater thunder, tinder-like conditions, perfectly primed for more. Pray God's mercy. And for those on the front lines this time, local or from overseas, professional and volunteer, pray God's protection. And for prison labor firefighters, hoping service leads to freedom, leads to opportunity to serve in freedom and face fires for more than $5 a day max. AB 2147 got passed, so there is that. But isn't it something? Interlocking systems of combustion, some of them burning now. Pray these chains are broken. Some beauty for ashes. Apocalypsis. Eyes opened indeed. Pray long life and freedom and peace. And put on a spirit of ashes and lament. Apocalyptic is appropriate as it is revealing. Weep with those who weep. The carpenter shed blood to buy back and give for the hopeless hope that sorrows one day will end, but in the not yet also shed tears over death and a cry over an unseeing nation caught in the groaning and frustration and flood ash since Eden. Pray grace and mercy over everything, over the pain and frustration and the groaning until the ash is gone. Pray we rightly see the light and the sun. Pray for rain in a season of fire.